When working with ideas and capturing those ideas visually, it's easy to focus on what happens when pen hits the page. The power of visual note-taking, after all, lies in the fact that you get to see the ideas that you're working with. But the first and arguably most important step in this process is invisible. It's what you do with this and this before you even start to use this. Welcome to Verbal to Visual Video. I am your host, Doug Neill. Today we will be exploring how to improve your listening skills so that the next time you go into class or into a meeting or to a conference, you are open and ready for all of the ideas that are going to come your way. So let's jump into it. I'm glad that we use the term listening skills as a plural because I do think that there are multiple pieces that have to come together in order to be a good listener. My goal with this video is to help you get better at the various skills that make up listening so that you can be more effective in your workplace, in your relationships, in anything that requires using your ears. I like to break listening down into 3 skills, each more difficult than the last. The first is hearing, the second is understanding, and the third is filtering and synthesizing. Well, let's take a look at each of those. At the most basic level, you have to be able to hear the person that is speaking, and that requires attention. And the way to make sure that you are paying attention is to first observe whatever distractions might be in the way, and then get rid of those distractions. Those come in 2 forms. Internal and external. Internal distractions are the things that are going on up here that aren't related to what's going on with the speaker. It's when you daydream, when you start thinking about something that's coming up tomorrow or something that happened earlier in the day and you're not focused in the moment on the speaker and on the information that is coming at you. That distraction is the easiest to fix so long as you notice when it happens. Just requires flipping your attention from whatever idea was on your mind to whatever idea your speaker is sharing with you. External distractions are things that are in your immediate environment that you don't control but that take the attention away from the speaker. Like something interesting happening over here when you should be looking at the speaker over there. Or the annoying guy 2 rows back that won't shut up even though there's clearly someone presenting information in front of him. And even though you don't have direct control over those circumstances, you can avoid them by doing things like sitting towards the front of the room and blocking off those types of distractions that might be in your field of view or the folks that are in the back of the room that aren't in it as much as you are. So internal distractions take just a little bit of mindfulness to overcome. External distractions require changing your circumstances as much as you can to block those out. Now that you can check that box of actually being able to hear, let's look at what it takes to understand. Comprehending the ideas that are being shared requires focus, which is just a deeper form of attention, and it also requires a certain amount of background information. For example, if I were to go to a physics conference this weekend, I would probably be lost a lot of the time, even though I studied physics as an undergraduate. I've been away from those ideas for long enough and the talks would be specific enough that there would be this gap between what the speakers are presuming that their audience will know and understand and what I personally actually do understand at this moment. Thankfully, that is something that I or you can make up for by doing a bit of research. If I were to spend just a few hours the day before this physics conference reviewing my old textbooks, getting a grasp of the fundamentals at the core of physics, and maybe even digging into the specific topic of the conference, then I would have both the underlying context to understand more of what was going on, and the details to be able to follow without struggling, as much at least. And I think both of those pieces are helpful. The context allows you to have a grasp of kind of the big picture surrounding the field that this talk is about and how that field relates to humanity at large. And the specific details, like industry-specific terms and definitions, that will allow you to struggle less in the moment trying to remember what that term, what that word means, so that you can focus on how that word fits within all of the other ideas that are being shared. Now, I want to add a little bit of a caveat here, because I do think it is on the speaker, the presenter, to know their audience so that they provide those definitions or extra context when necessary. But as a speaker, no matter what situation you're in, the folks that are sitting or standing in front of you are going to have a wide variety of backgrounds. So there's no way for any speaker to cover their bases entirely, which is why, from your perspective, it can be helpful just to do a little bit of research before entering that room. Now let's get to the most difficult, but also the most interesting stage here: filtering and synthesizing. It is one thing to understand the entirety of a talk. It is quite another to actually filter out the ideas that matter and then synthesize those ideas into something that's meaningful to you. Doing that requires intent and quite a bit of processing power. When I talk about intent, I am referring to your purpose for being at this event, for listening to this speaker. You need to know your why you showed up to this event, what you want to get out of it, so that you can filter out those things that aren't relevant to your goal. I created an entire video on this idea of using your intent as a filter, which I will link to below. Knowing your why also helps you to synthesize the ideas that have already been filtered, because in this stage you are combining those ideas that matter to you in a way that's memorable and meaningful. This is when we get into the core of sketchnoting, the taking of a number of ideas and creating this visual representation of those ideas. A visual representation that is more or less accurate and that helps us to remember and then act on those ideas in the future. That is a very creative, energy-intensive, and challenging thing to do, which is why developing this processing power might be the most important skill that fits kind of right in the middle, in between listening and sketchnoting. It's all of the processing that goes on that helps you to make a smooth transition from one to the other. And to get better at that sub-skill, I suggest you practice with your eyes closed. Listen to an entire talk or a short podcast episode with your eyes closed, not worried about sketchnoting at all, only focusing on hearing, understanding, and then doing this filtering and synthesizing, but all in your head. Build up a mental picture that represents the most interesting and important ideas that you are hearing. That ability to develop a mental picture is distinct from the idea of actually sketching it out. So even before you're fully comfortable using this, there's a lot of training you can do up here, which I think then will make it easier to use this in an effective way when you do put pen to paper or stylus to iPad. And that speaks to the broader approach to developing your sketchnoting skills that I try to share here. Spending some time focusing on a very specific skill related to sketchnoting, and then also spending time bringing those various skills together into a sketchnoting session. You do dribbling drills and practice so that you nail the crossover during the game. So keep these ideas in mind the next time that you enter a situation in which your listening skills need to be on point. Get rid of all of the distractions that you can. Do even just the tiny bit of research beforehand, and then make sure you know why you are there, and try doing a bit of practice to boost up that processing power of yours. Then just get after it and have some fun while you're at it. Thank you for watching this episode. I hope you found those ideas useful, and I will see you next time. What do you guys think of this new format here? In case you're curious, I've been using the Apple Pencil and the iPad app Procreate. That is what I use to create the sketch portion of this video. I will be sharing more about the specifics of those tools within the How to Make Sketchnote videos course. I'm already starting to think about some bonus modules specifically on how to use an iPad to make this style of video, because it's pretty fun to do. We've got a few modules to get out before those bonus ones. The one I'm working on right now is how to use a DSLR camera and Adobe Premiere Pro to make this style of video. So if you've been following along with that course, know that that one is on the way, and that I look forward to continuing to explore how to use the tools that are available to us to make visually engaging videos. Bye for now.